Hello everyone and welcome to the start of the LEC Winter Playoffs. Now, Vedi, you know how we usually called Vedi?
Yeah.
I've decided we shorten that to MV this time. Because then we're the MVP, because it's Pedro at the end. Right?
The MVP
really
TriCast, I love this. The British boys back on the desk for a banger of a series between G2 and Koi. The beginning of our playoffs, the upper semi-finals, as both these teams were victorious throughout the group stages. Koi yet to lose a game so far in the best of threes, and they have looked good so far as we get, well, into the finals.
Yeah, definitely a big bounce back from Koi, isn't it? I think all of them have stepped up. I think Malrang especially is just looking on fire right now in the early games, and teams haven't really been able to find a way to suppress him. I think his style of just sitting in the river for 1 minute, leaning to one side, waiting for the option, waiting for the outcome to happen is inevitable, so we'll see how G2 deals with it.
That we will.
That we will, Vedi. That we will. Let's get into draft for game one. Now, every time these two teams met up in a best of 5 last year, it was a 3-0. Twice to G2 and once to Koi. Obviously, Koi, the reigning LEC champions. Jarvan going to be banned out first here by G2, who got side selection in this and selected blue.
I think the Elise ban on Koi's side is a guarantee, and I think G2 might be looking at something like the Ashe, perhaps as a first pick or a first ban. I think these are the two champions I'm going to keep my eye on for this series, because Trymbi's Ashe has been phenomenal.
I'm curious as to what Koi is going to do with the Lilia. Is that something that they feel that needs to be removed?
Okay, I just quickly need to mention, a lot of Koi chants coming from Fnatic jersey wearers here. Very quick for them to have changed their tune, you know? Fnatic come back in the spring split, but for now, Koi fans through and through, it seems.
Just got to
call them out like that.
Yeah, okay, fair enough, Medic, fair enough.
Giga Chad, Giga Medic.
Anyway, Sylas and Kaylin taken away by G2. There's the Elise that you were talking about. Ashe, obviously, possibility. There's the Draven, and Ashe finally taken away by Koi. So lots of AD carries getting taken out of the champion contention. G2 with first pick have a lot of different options.
I was going to say Lucian was an option, but it looks like the Maokai is the priority for the time being. We know how strong the champion is. Just very well rounded in terms of engage, good scaling, good damage, and also gives you flexibility in the mid lane in terms of what AD champions. Tristana we have seen come out from Caps before. Jayce is also a very viable option here for G2.
Classic G2 here would slam double solo lanes, wouldn't they? I think Jayce, yeah, like I said, would be amazing. Just go for something along those lines, perhaps like a Jax early rotation too. Just make sure you secure full top side. Make sure the top side is happy. They could also just pivot and go bot lane here. Zeri, Lulu wouldn't be too bad. Expecting Koi to pick up Sejuani on 3, Vi on 3, depending on what G2 pick up. If they pick up Zeri, likely a Vi. If they go full top side, likely a Sejuani.
Instead of looking towards the top side, though, they go down towards support. Give Mikyx his Nautilus, something he's shown just how good he can be. Xayah gives you a bit of protection, especially from something like that Vi in the jungle.
Varus would also be a pretty good one.
For sure,
Varus, Nautilus, lots of kill pressure down there. I think we saw Astralis run it yesterday. But they could also just leave AD for now. They have so many options. I think G2, the thing is when you have players that are so flexible and can play kind of anything, you can see them debating and discussing what they want to do, because Jayce here would be Jayce here would be amazing. Just drop AD. I think it's just worth it.
You can also flex the Jayce if you want to. You can go both mid and top. Our current expectations is it will be caps on the Jayce in the mid lane. But as you rightly said, given they have so much versatility in the AD carry role, they can do kind of whatever they want. Malrang now, the question is what will he choose to go for? Sejuani is often the answer into the Maokai. Have those two team fighting junglers, a little bit more durable, a little bit more of a frontline ways to kick off those fights. But we know that Koi can be a little bit unconventional. Perhaps they want to get their mid laner in for Larssen. Looks like that won't be the case as Malrang will lock in his jungle. Now we look at some of the things that can be removed. Some of the AD carries are the expected bans that we're likely to see from Koi now.
Yeah, I think Varus would make a lot of sense. Looking at Jayce and Maokai, that's a lot of poke. AP Maokai likely to be the only AP on the team. I want to take away as much poke potential as they have. Varus slots in really well there. Zeri, just another powerful champion on the patch. You talked about the Xayah. I think Kai'Sa is something I'd be concerned about.
I was thinking about it as well, yeah.
Because Kai'Sa's dive potential, handsome as Kai'Sa last weekend, was really, really good, and just has really good percent damage to shred through things like the Sejuani.
Instead, they go for the Kalista, trying to remove some of the power that G2 have in that 2v2 in the bottom lane. Lucian Nami very strong when it comes to those all-out duels, but something like a Kalista Nautilus can match up to them in the early game and try and get a bit of a lead. So take away the Kalista. G2 here likely to look towards some mid lane bans. The Azir, of course, one of Larssen's premier picks. G2 don't want him getting his hands on the Emperor.
I wonder if Renekton is just a pick here for Koi. Something like Renekton or Gnar on 4, be really safe, see where the Jayce is going, and then decide what to do with mid. Unless they want to go for some kind of mage. I think Viktor has been cropping up a lot in the LCK and the LPL as the blind pick go-to mid laner, but it hasn't found much success. And I think with champions like Sejuani, you really want Sylas or Akali on your team, something that can help with that passive.
Certainly the case, but we also know that Larssen, very well known for his mages. Viktor, Orianna, Azir, all very comfortable champions for him. I think the Sylas ban, if we go back from G2, makes a lot of sense. They knew that they wanted to prioritize the Maokai by locking in the Maokai. The expected response, especially from Malrang, was that Sejuani, and then by denying the Sylas, which is often Larssen's go-to. Good prep and good readiness there for G2, because it does kind of bring into question what will they pair up with the Malrang's Sejuani, and what can kind of facilitate this Lucian as well. Just going through a couple of options right now.
I think they're teasing them. They know what they want to play. Samira Kaisa is what he's saying here. Come to Hansama. Tristana, what do you want to play? Is Larssen going to go for Tristana mid here? I'd be a bit surprised.
But it's the Viktor. You talked about
what we expected,
the safety blind pick Viktor there. Can still go towards that Renekton up towards the top side if you want to try and get a bit of a melee combo with the Sejuani.
So, yeah, no, I was just going to say, how frisky does Hands-On get with this? Because Samira Kaisa would be great.
He's looking very frisky right now.
Trymbi putting his thumbs up right now.
He's teasing each other from across the stage, taunting one another.
And of course, Hansama and Trymbi had history together. You know, they played together for a little while, so Trymbi will have Zreed, but instead, MF going to be the lock-in here. Good poke, good harass in the lane as well.
A lot of teamfight power coming out from G2 right now. And as you said, a
Gragas.
lot of poke, so they've got a little bit more AP damage coming out from the top side of the map.
It's so good here, Aatrox, I'm telling you. Double melee topside tanks with a tank support as well. Aatrox can get a lot of work done, so they've just blind picked the Gragas. We'll see what build BrokenBlade goes for, likely tank-ish, but it helps the split damage from your team. Sion the hover for now, but yeah, Koi's team comp is just so teamfight heavy.
I can't remember the last time I was sad not to see an Aatrox locked in, but I would have loved an Aatrox being locked in here. Gnar perhaps a little bit more safe up towards the top side. Does still work well with the Sejuani if you can start to harass down that Gragas, but Gragas very difficult to actually get damage on in the early game.
I feel like that game one, everything has kind of gone as expected in terms of what these teams have drafted. Koi, a very traditional composition, scaling mid laner, a very aggressive bot side of the map, a lane that they often like to play through, and Szygenda kind of just doing what he needs for the team. They wanted a little bit more team fighting power. The Gnar gives you presence in lane and also scales pretty well in terms of the value that it can offer to team fights. Whereas G2, while they do have a lot of team fighting themselves, again, they have a lot more agency to roam around the map with the Jayce in mid lane. Caps can get unlocked early on in the laning phase. I expect Yike to be aggressive, ideally looking around bot side of the map, maybe even mid, but I expect all of the action to be happening in the bot lane as Hansama and Comp go toe-to-toe.
Yeah, it's likely top lane will be in isolation this game, as it always normally is, unless you have explosive champs, ignites taken, or any kind of Elise that can threaten those dives. We'll see how bot push goes though, because I think that yesterday in the Nautilus lanes, the Nautilus would force level 1 really hard to make sure they could get the push to help jungle, and then the Maokai, or the jungler in that case, can start bot side and invade and start skirmishes with the level 2 melee support, because then you can really start to pressure the map.
So close for that fan. Samira was hovered for a while, wasn't quite locked in, but G2 and Koi about to take to the Rift. That bot lane, a key point of focus for us through this game. I believe that's Caps' dad and Dylan Falco's dad together. We'll see if they perform well coming into our first game of the LEC Winter Playoffs.
This crowd cracks me up. There was
So
one
the
side,
Fnatic fans started chanting Fnatic,
yeah.
and then the other side of the crowd goes, "Where is Fnatic?"
Nothing special, they lose every week, guys. Okay.
You gotta love it.
What?
Oh man,
The fans are not happy with you right now.
the G2 ones are. I can see them.
Well, onto the rift we go. Both junglers on the top side of the map right now. No extra pressure down the bottom lane. We have seen, like, 5-man groups down in bot lane to try and get early push, early prio. There is a ward from G2, but nothing too adventurous happening from either of these squads.
So, given that the other game looks like it's going to be pretty stock standard, unless Koi actually could go for a bit of a delayed invade here,
I think it's just about denying any ward in that pixel bush.
Fair. But I wanted to talk about Koi's early game, because something that we've been very impressed with is their evolution from the best of ones into the best of threes, and how convincing and dominant that they have looked. Because there are a lot of question marks around Koi and their regular season performance. Where is Koi? Usually when they were Rogue, we expected them to be the regular season kings, consistently placing in the top 2 positions, but the early games didn't look consistent. The team was really struggling. Then the moment they came into the best of threes, they yet to lose a game. The early game has been consistently dominant, and honestly, they felt largely untested leading up to this point.
Night and day, absolute night and day from Koi. And this is the team we saw win a championship last year in these last few best-of series. But here's the force from the Nautilus. Try and get the Lucian as low HP as possible. Make sure that you can threaten dives on bot side. And you can see Yike's already going to finish up on his Crux, go towards red, and then he'll likely invade Malrang's jungle. So Malrang actually responding really well, knowing that that'll be his pathing. He skipped his topside camps, did red, went into blue, will take Gromp, nothing for Yike to take.
That battle between the junglers is one we've got to keep our eyes on throughout the course of this series. Mikyx looking for another hook, can't quite land it. Early trades, good for Hans, Samo, and Mikyx. You can see triple potion longsword for Hans, so he's going to be able to regenerate some of that health. But obviously Nami, when she gets a couple of levels, can just continue to push out that healing onto Comp with the ebb and flow. And then we'll see if Comp and Trymbi can answer back, as they lost the early push for level 2.
So Yike's in their jungle now, threatening a dive. He was on a ward though, so I think Malrang is ready to cover. G2 classic here. Stack up waves bot, look for the dive. Yike thinks something's up though. They've leveled over to level 2. The wave isn't in range of crashing just yet, so maybe they're calling the play off. Malrang's just hiding in the shadows, waiting to see what happens.
Well, I wonder if Malrang was... Oh no, that ward did end up coming out afterwards, wasn't it? Because Malrang put himself behind the wall, kind of shadowing in the lane so that he wouldn't be spotted. But now he has his eyes on mid. Caps is very low. Yike is in a position to cover, but a flash Q from Malrang could be all it takes.
How long is that Q from coming off cooldown? He used it to get into this, but Bush knows there's no warden with Caps going forward, even though Larssen's low. There's nowhere for Caps to go. Does still have the flash, will hold on to it. Malrang flash follows though. Needs a slow here. One more auto would be enough. Permafrost. And down to an icy tomb for Caps.
He always does it, man. Malrang always does it. Level 3, he will get a kill. And it was just a smart pathing, right? Covers the bot dive, runs towards mid, Qs over the wall in case there's any wards in river, and waits patiently to find his targets.
You know, I seem to recall this exact same thing happening the last time the G2 and Koi met, and it was Caps. I remember listening to the voice comms afterwards saying, thought I could get a solo kill, instead I just got ganked.
Yep. I also remember, I think it was Fnatic in the playoffs last year up against Rogue, where I believe it was Razork who just flashed over the wall on Xin Zhao and sat in that bush.
Yep.
And then looked for a very similar gank. Junglers love jumping over that wall. Mikyx not going to land the hook onto Comp.
Hansamo and Mikyx have been able to neutralize Comp and Trymbi a little bit in the early game. I think Lucian, Nami very strong as you get your first item, even into mid-game, can be very powerful. Just dash forward, rapid-fire cannon, land a couple of autos, and it becomes very tricky to deal with him. But for the moment, this MF Nautilus seems to be having a handle on the situation. Malrang has a handle on the rest of the map, as Caps, with no flash, could get caught out a little bit here.
Important to note, he's running Electrocute, not Phase Rush, so once he goes in for that trade, he's not coming out if he goes into Hammer form.
The damage that he had onto Larssen was pretty good, but of course, Viktor deceptively tanky in the early laning phase, especially thanks to the shield you get on your Q.
Malrang wins those.
Yeah, he does with the Permafrost. That's a huge amount of damage down onto Yike. The sapling will chase Malrang away. He can come back, clear out this ward, but Yike is only at 200 HP. Gravity Well landing onto Caps here in the mid lane as he tries to get an Electrocute proc off, but Siphon Power gives Larssen the shield, and overall, mid jungle very much in favor of Koi so far.
Not a major gold advantage for the time being, but Koi will be happy with it nonetheless. Comp is a little bit low, but Malrang is looking. Looks like he won't really be able to convert that into much. I think his priority here is to just make sure that this wave gets pushed underneath the tower so that the Koi bot lane can look to get a reset off. The only thing they have to be concerned about is G2 setting up a freeze.
Oh, constantly fishing for those hooks there, Mikyx. He knows he can get a summoner out of Comp if he lands it. Managed to trade the Ignite for Cleanse earlier on. Well,
Hanshammer's already got a cheater recall or some sort of recall off in this bottom lane. With the strut on the MF, you can get back to the lane so much quicker. You can see Comp only sitting on the Doran's Blade, whereas this double longsword dagger as Caps caught out again in the mid lane. Chaos Storm coming down. Caps, you've got nowhere to go, and we will just be chipped away. The death rate from Larssen is the second kill of the game for Koi.
What is going on? How long has Malrang been around mid or bot? It's 6 minutes into the game. He's based once. He's done, what, 6 camps, and he's just been hovering around this river the entirety of the game. How can G2's mid or bot ever push?
My expectation was we'd see a lot more action towards the bot side of the map, but Malrang, he saw his window. He was able to find an effective gank in mid. He found a repeat gank in mid as well. And remember, Malrang, he went from mid to bot, back to mid. He hasn't really strayed very far from this area. Yike is now going to use this as an opportunity to get a bit of deep vision. See if he can spot anything out. He should, yeah, he's going to ping now that the Raptors are respawning. He expects the Sejuani to path towards there, and this gives information towards the MF that, hey, Ansama, jungler should be away from you for a little while.
And the beauty of all of this is that the Gnar is winning in isolation. You know, you can just leave Szygenda up there, he'll do his thing, he'll keep the push. If you ever want to move to Herald in the next minute, you're guaranteed top push till a couple more points get put in that queue from BrokenBlade. It's a bit harder to push back into Szygenda. Mikyx also looking for similar sort of vision that you just touched on there, Vedius, on the bot side, but they will see Malrang going towards the red buff. See how close he is to level 6 once he finishes that one up. A couple more camps and he'll make it there.
Koi not a huge team when it comes towards the Heralds. Like to look towards first tower and first dragon a little bit more. G2 tend to prioritize the Herald on the top side of the map, but here's going to be a bit of a struggle for them because not really going to be able to get any pressure in this mid lane with Larssen already having a kill lead and Caps still being flashless for the next 30 seconds or so, maybe even a minute there on the timer. Bubble from Trymbi, that was blind. Mickey goes back in with a hook, but Trimby's around the corner and we'll just get pulled into the wall.
Worth noting, small thing, but can have massive consequences, is Viktor, when you get those kills, oh, hang on a second.
For them fight in the mid lane, Caps able to go away from the permafrost. Yike was there to counter it. Yike stunned up for a second though, Malrang going back in still. It's the pain of having a ranged mid laner with a Sejuani. The permafrost was stacking up, but couldn't get 4 stacks in time, which means both Yike and Caps are able to walk away.
Bit unlucky for Koi there. Larssen's Chaos Storm, his ult was about 2 seconds off as Malrang queued onto Caps. The fight ended, the ult came up. That means that they are stronger in this 2v2 and they will start up this Herald. Szygenda has the top push and he will move straight after the wave is crashed. And yeah, Yike's just going to base, he's going to give it up.
Yeah, Larssen, he should feel very strong right now, and you can see how he's kind of...
Bullet time coming out. Trymbi has to flash away. Comp takes a tower shot as well. They were just looking for the plate here. Trymbi able to survive the Cullen coming back, and will keep Mickey and Hansama at bay.
Wow, we didn't quite catch the beginning of that fight, but Trymbi looked like he was locked up underneath the tower. The G2 bot lane doing very devastating damage, but they should be able to heal that back up in no time. Comp very low on mana. They know where Malrang is. They should spot out Yike any second.
Looking at how low that tower is, I'm 99% sure they were greeding for a plate in the bottom lane. It was about 1 hit away from dying, and Trymbi just overstepped a slight bit because of it. Depth charge going down onto Trymbi. Comp, though, trading back onto Mickey with Malrang on his way, and Flash Glacial Prism a possibility. Mickey has Flash. Instead, he goes for Hansama. Only lands the slow Hansama. Only the exhaust on him. And because he doesn't have that escape tool, he will die in the bottom lane.
What an early game from Koi. They're controlling all the neutral objectives. They're controlling this entire bot side river, which is what we expected from draft, and they're playing beautifully around these lanes. Malrang especially just making sure plays are happening. Doesn't even commit the flash ult there. He knows that the slow is enough to kill Hans with no flash, and they're gonna start running away with it here. They've got the Herald, so the next play is theirs. Caps even trying to contest this crab. He won't be able to get it. See if he can push Malrang back a bit, but that'll be all.
He's trying to make Malrang actually have to go back to base at some point in the game. Like puts out the sapling, couldn't find much more. This entire bot side is open for him, but instead decides not to go in. We'll see this hook once again for Mickey. Hansama was backing away with no mana as they went for this play.
Yep.
I think the idea is to just force the wave underneath the tower, so maybe no potential freeze could be set up as the next wave was coming in. They weren't expecting Malrang to collapse, which is a little bit of a surprise because they did actually spot him in vision in mid lane. It was a possibility, but regardless, G2 get punished.
Oh, Nature's Grasp being used here. Malrang's going to try and block it for Larssen, does exactly that. Larssen rooted underneath the tower, though, somehow surviving for an absolute aeon, but in the end, Yike will get G2 on the board.
Looks like he got hit by one of the roots. He was just not straight behind Malrang there. I think he got tagged by...
The hitboxes are quite massive.
Yeah, they are, and I think that's what tagged him, rooted him. Malrang didn't have ult to stop any of the damage, so G2 will find a kill, and they will find this dragon, so they're getting themselves on the board here in this best-of-5 series.
Okay, so at least G2 are able to get something back after what has been a very convincing early game from Koi. Of course, they can't take a sigh of relief just yet, as you look at the bottom of your screen and you can see gold advantages being built up all across the board for Koi, which is why they currently sit at about a 1.4k gold lead. Both teams really, we're looking at the team fights later on into the game. Remember how much power this Maokai MF alone have in terms of the 5v5. Koi as well, they've had some pretty incredible team fights so far in the best of threes. But it's going to be interesting to see how these teams set up for the Dragons later on. But let's have a look back at this as an early indication of how these fights are likely to go.
Flash hook from Mikyx goes onto Larssen. Pops the W, try and get a little bit of peel for himself. Let's see the block here from Malrang. Oh, just like you said, massive hitbox. The left-hand one that I think just tagged him. And the root is what killed him. Malrang not able to enter. Larssen a bit frustrated with that one. Knows the game was going so well, and now G2 found something. But they'll keep this setup. They'll keep Malrang around mid. They'll keep Trymbi hovering. And I think they want to put the Herald down soon.
Yeah, you want to get it down, obviously, before that 14-minute mark so the plates can fall, but also before it times out. Which it's about a fifth of the way away from doing for Malrang. So maybe try and get Caps low so he can't defend it too effectively. Caps has been able to get a little bit back into the game, although still struggling in comparison to Larssen. Trymbi and Comp should be able to push out this bot wave. Mikyx is hovering mid to try and answer anything that Malrang might be doing, puts a ward down, and Malrang being spotted retreats.
He was sitting in that bush for at least 30 to 40 seconds. Trymbi left to go back to bot and he was still there. Yeah, he's looking to place it down mid by the looks of it. He's telling Larssen to stop his base because he needs to place this down somewhere. I think it's going to have to be mid with the bot lane moving up. Sweeper on that ward. Crab's there. 3 plates left. I think they need to get this mid wave in. Escort their bot lane towards this tower to try to get as much damage on it as possible.
But they can also try and catch out Mikyx as he tries to roam up, and that's exactly what they do. Bullet time coming out. Comp down to about half HP, but already Mikyx has fallen. Caps coming in from the side. Malrang's going to try and flash across this wall, but the bullets chase him home. Caps now in the midst of the KM. Storm will fall as well. Cannot survive Trymbi's assault. Hans Sama trying to do what he can. Yike's going to join the party. They'll go for Larssen. Hans Sama trying to get on the board again. A second for him in the fight. Koi forced to retreat down towards the bottom side. Can Trymbi get away? Yike looked for the slow from the Nature's Grasp, but couldn't quite find it. The Bramble Smash, in fact, the slow from the Make It Rain won't be enough to keep Trymbi in G2's grasp.
Ends up being a 2-for-2. Koi, they tried to punish Mikyx's lack of flash early in the play, and they're able to find that initial pick, but Hans Sama with the confident collapse with Caps. You can see they're able to spot out Mikyx here. They know he doesn't have flash after that earlier play onto Larssen in mid. A lot of good damage comes down from Hans Sama, which really sets up for this re-engage. As G2 are creating this 3-man collapse. The ultimate from Maokai is going to set them up. Good damage. An animation cancel there with Hans Sama's Q. Caps trades his life to set up for this ultimate and buy a little bit more time, and then Larssen knows that he doesn't have the damage to shut down Hans Sama, especially with Yike offering support as well.
I think Trymbi gets his passive off here on his E as Yike looks for the flash Q, so he just gets out of range. Nice play there by Koi to look for the pick on the rotation towards mid, knowing they were first. G2 able to respond a little bit. Yike looking for this blue buff. As the smite will pick it up, and that mid tower is left with 1 plate, so will be an easy pickup for Koi later on.
And this is kind of the difference between G2 and some of the other opponents Koi have faced during the group stage. When Koi had this sort of early lead at the 12-13 minute mark, they were able just to wrest the entirety of the game away from their opponents. Here, G2 always willing to fight them, keep them within about 1,000 gold. They're still in arrears, but G2 show that if they can find the right fights, they can really get back into these games.
Definitely can. That's the power of G2. Looking for a hook there. Mikyx. Caps was right behind him, and this is Caps' Jayce. Loves to roam around the map, look for these plays on sides, shut down anything he can do. And I think when he's in a game where his lane is not so much unplayable, but there's nothing to do in terms of action, he'll always sacrifice waves and move around.
The Herald was up, and I thought that Malrang had the perfect timing on it. Choosing not to go for it, but with the waves that they've stacked up in top, it could be an option for them. With Yike moving up into mid, maybe it's something that Koi is a little bit more hesitant to commit to. You can see the push in bot. Observers, if we could have a look at that bot lane tower very quickly. Mikyx is now arriving to lane, but Koi getting very good damage onto this tower. Very close to securing it. Shouldn't be able to get it off the back of this wave. And now keep your eyes on mid lane once again. Caps looking for a roam alongside Yike, but they should be spotted out by that vision.
Yeah, it's actually interesting that Caps is the one that's able to roam around here first. I think it's because Malrang needed to clear out some camps, catch up, get his red base, come back out onto the map, and then the 2v2 can commence once again with 30 seconds on the Dragon. I don't really blame him for giving up river control. That's the next objective.
That's where G2 are investing their resources right now. First strike on the Maokai alongside that Demonic Embrace makes it very difficult for Koi to step in here. We often see a Sejuani get Warmog's second item after the Radiant Virtue just to be able to deal with the pesky saplings that can chip away at your health. Comp and Trymbi looking for something, but no one from G2 oversteps, so they'll back away. They don't have vision on the river either. Now, Trymbi stayed here.
What's going on here?
Comp's going to get hooked. Trymbi looking for the tide away from behind. The next guy's coming out as well, but Trymbi's on the wrong side of dodge. Bullet time into the roots. Lands his mark, and Hans Sama gets his third. Make it his fourth of the game. G2 on a tear.
massive blunder by Koi's bot lane as well. What are they doing? Comp's just trying to run past the wave. Caps is in trouble. Malrang.
Caps still has the flash here. Glacial Prism's going to come out, and Caps flashes it. Saved it for all that time to dodge the ultimate from the Sejuani, and G2 get everything they were looking for.
As much as I want to say great from G2 for getting those 2 kills, I need to see that again because Comp is just running in a straight line to his tower with Trymbi leaving him alone without a wave to block any of the hooks. And then Trymbi flash ults, misses the Q, there's no follow-up, Comp's too far away. It was just so messy.
I'm trying to understand the logic here, but it was honestly a massive mistake on the side of Koi. The only good news for them is by forcing Caps back, it does make securing this Herald that much easier. And they will be able to, they'll likely use this top lane as mid is guaranteed to fall in the next few minutes. Bot lane is also very low. As I say that, there's that mid tower dropping. Larssen and Malrang have found a lot of success in mid lane, but you kind of look at the scoreline. He was 1-0-1 at the beginning, now finds himself with 1-2-2, been caught out a couple times thanks to some great plays from Yike and the Maokai ultimate. But we're pretty much into a dead even game state. The difference is 2 dragons up for G2 and a bot lane tower and a 4-1 misfortune. Han Summer is the carry that many in Europe fear when fed.
I mean, Bloodthirster Gale Force at 17 minutes in the game is something definitely to be feared, especially with the setup from the rest of his team. A good barrel, a good Nature's Grasp, a good depth charge just allows them to get so much CC.
So, there's no jungle around to bait. There's no TP, sorry, excuse me. And they're too far away to buff one another up. I mean, we saw it a little bit late on into that replay. I think
yeah.
I want to see what Koi did with the bush control, but yeah, confusing.
Well, they just sat in it.
The thing I see is they sit in it, they expect Han Summer to miss position, and they CC him and kill him while he's there. They don't expect Yike to come down and use the Nature's Grasp, and then you kill off this guy that's already got 2 kills and probably a shutdown at that point. I didn't see
it was maybe
bounties,
a bait of some sort.
Yeah, maybe they were looking for something. Obviously didn't work for them, and it gave Han Summer even more gold to funnel into him. So now the MF is a mighty problem as Malrang looks for something up towards this top side. The sun's going to land there, but no follow-up CC onto Mikyx.
Keeping my eyes on the bot lane as well. You can see Gnar, Szygenda, Caps looking for the collapse. BrokenBlade on his way as well, but Szygenda just going to jump away to safety. And you commented on it earlier, Caedrel, something that we often see from Caps.
Were you about to say Pedro? Because I do that all the time.
It's because his name is Caedrel. I was about to call him Caps.
Okay, yeah.
But, you know.
Easy mistake.
That would have been a colossal mistake.
Understandable mistake.
But
gameplay sim was so
it's
similar.
funny because it was actually Caedrel that, because he often goes so far. Hang on, hook.
Onto Malrang. Depth charge onto Larssen as well. TP's coming, Nature's Grasp coming in from the side as well. Malrang trying to get away. Trymbi is the loop, but look at the damage! It's a bullet time and it sends them all to hell. Larssen has to flash away. Caps still on the chase, but G2 just find everything in the top lane.
And you see the beauty of the MF in this comp when Maokai can get the ult onto multiple targets. The follow-up is always there, no matter how far away. Hands is just in range for the ultimate. Just blows them all up there. Koi was playing good in the early game, finding these small leads, but now G2 are starting to run away with the fights.
This is the problem when you have a fed MF, but honestly, it was set up nicely by Mikyx, the follow-up from Yike, and this is why so many teams in Europe fear the Maokai. His ultimate is just so effective, whether it be for follow-up or whether it be to initiate a team fight. It just provides the perfect setup for an MF to deal ridiculous damage. G2, they walk away with 2 kills, they walk away with another tower, and they're looking to walk away with game 1.
And with 2 minutes left on the Ocean, Drake would be sole point for G2. You can see Malrang being chipped away there just by Yike, who, after a bit of a struggling start, is now 2-0-4 on this Maokai. I think seeing him develop across the course of this split has been very encouraging for the future, not only of EU junglers, but of G2 junglers. I think losing Jankos was a big loss for this team in the off-season, but now they found someone who is beginning to replace him, although doesn't obviously have the longevity of someone like Jankos.
I mean, G2's game plan coming into the year was to do something different, right? They wanted to take more gambles, take more risks, even bringing Mikyx back onto the organization after what was a solid year the year before. Many people questioned, is this actually going to be a step up? You're taking a gamble on a young jungler. You're bringing in a Han Summer who didn't have a good season over in North America, a Mikyx who sure had high moments on XL, but also had some inconsistencies, and so far the team has gelled incredibly well together. And what's crazy is often it's Caps who we'd be talking about at this point in a split, but everyone around him seems to be stepping up, that Caps can just continue to do his thing.
Yeah, faith in the bot lane of G2 and finding the young guns of Yike, and even Koi similarly in Szygenda, finding that aggressive style in these lanes or in the jungle that can bring a different style. Koi
Nature's Scars comes in. There's the knockback as well with the cask. Instead, Malrang will fall. But Szygenda gets onto the backline, and now it's all on Koi. What can you do? A beautiful Gnar means that Caps will fall, but Koi still retreating underneath their tower. Hansama falls away so low. One more auto would be enough, but they just can't get in range. G2 will walk away wounded, but they'll walk away alive.
Oh, so frustrating for Koi. It was such a bad fight. The turn was amazing from Szygenda, but they only get one kill. So close to getting Hans, so close to getting Mikyx as well. Maybe they can find this dragon. It's sole point for G2 if they can pick it up.
They don't have a jungler, Caedrel. Malrang still sitting in the fountain for 4 more seconds.
Yeah, gonna back off. G2 are gonna work their way into this river. Caps doesn't have TP, but he'll have the home guards to get out of base and get here in time. G2 gonna stack up those 3 dragons. A little bit sketchy when the Gnar came in, but the engage initially was good.
I'm not sure if Hansama even went back to base. I feel like he just lifestealed everything back.
He's got bloodthirst.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The man just brought himself back to full HP, ready to fight again. And as you rightly said, frustration for Koi. What was a very good engage initially from G2, you see even more how well that this composition works together. Yike throws the ultimate out, and then the Gragas casket to create space between the front line and the back line sets him for a very easy pick. The Sejuani ultimate onto Hansama means that he can't ult initially. This Mega Gnar was beautiful from Szygenda, but the kills just can't come through for Koi.
The Chaos Storm was on top of it as well, so Larssen was getting so much damage down. Only finding Caps. G2 now posturing on this top side, want to take some control here because obviously when they went towards Drake, Koi out of base went top side, I imagine, and put all these wards down. Szygenda, 1.3k gold up in isolation. See what damage he can do in team fights. Another one of those Gnars with Larssen behind him, who I think he has a lot more damage now. Rabadon's picked up. If he had something like the Liandry's there in that fight, it would have been disaster for G2, but he's playing the scaling route, playing the Rod of Ages. And we'll see if it pays off in the long run.
And for G2, it's all about, can Hansama get a bullet time down? Like, can he just be alive at the back of a fight? Everyone else engages. He stands there, opens up with a bullet time, and unlike Neo in the Matrix, Koi have been unable to dodge it the majority of this game. Koi now setting up around the Baron, though. Szygenda, no TP on him, means that Koi are probably just playing for vision rather than for any actual take of this objective.
I'm reminded of Worlds 2021 Hansama when he was on Rogue World Championship. It was his misfortune that was single-handedly carrying a number of games.
Yep.
What was a disappointing World Championship for Rogue. Hansama really stood out as an individual, and it was on this champion. His ability to leverage the mobility, and Misfortune's just ability to have presence on the map, just because of her incredible movement speed and high-impact ultimate. Something we'll be keeping our eyes on as Hansama continues to have an incredibly strong game.
And Comp, his replacement for 2022, who has had a standout year. Probably the best bot lane in the league at the end of the year next to Trymbi. Had a decent showing at Worlds as well. Didn't get past the quarters though. And now they're back looking for another title.
How crazy is it that Hansama has never won a European title?
That's pretty crazy.
He's been in a number of different finals. Often G2, the team that gets in his way.
Is it, oh wait, it's Hansama, Yike, and Szygenda are the 3 players in this game that have never won a European title.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. It's quite crazy, yeah. And I mean, this is one of the big things. Koi coming in as his replacement, Comp rather coming in as his replacement, but we're setting up for this fight.
Well, Mikyx just hooked the wall there. I think he wants to engage though.
Szygenda just went into mini Gnar, TP coming in, there's a Nature's Grasp. Once again, Malrang will be on the front line. He goes in, they step forward, but the bullet time hasn't even been used yet. Caps on the back line, just assassinates Trymbi. Now Comp is next up. You can cleanse all you want, but you can't cleanse death. The ultimate CC for Koi as they are forced away once again.
And Caps just does Caps things once more. He's been struggling in this game, but he makes a beeline for the backline as he's able to execute Trymbi. He sets up the team to kill Comp. And G2 walk away with 3 kills, the Baron and the game.
Did he TP flank there? Solo kills Trymbi, knocks Comp into the team. Sejuani was just alone on top of 4 members of G2. The cast from BrokenBlade was beautiful, and this is G2's Comp. They can just run at you and start the engage. If the backline wants to help, they're in front of an MF ult, which wasn't even used.
And it's the power of Nature's Grasp as well, because it just separates the entirety of Koi. Malrang's going forward, Larssen's down towards the bottom side with Szygenda, Comp and Trymbi up towards the top side where Caps is TPing in. And we'll see they're just all split into different areas of this jungle.
Yeah, so Mikyx hooked the wall there, but he wants to engage. TP's coming in from Caps on the red buff entrance. This pullback onto the Sejuani with the Maokai behind it means that Koi's backline can't help. Then Caps just solo kills Trymbi, knocks Comp into the rest of the team. does insane work for G2 there, and we've got another fight here. Mikyx getting caught.
Very deep. TP coming out as well from BrokenBlade as they look to join the fight. Nature's Grasp into the bullet time! Dodge that, Koi! G2 just cleaned them up in the jungle. Koi thought they found something, but all they find is an early grave as they are wiped away once again. Szygenda will fall. Caps is just tower diving 2 towers here. BrokenBlade wants a piece of the party. Take notes, he says, as he forces Trymbi and Malrang away.
We may as well call it the Nature's bullet time at this point. The combo's worked twice now for G2, and it just decimates Koi. No one can stand inside of it, and they can't work with any space here. G2 are just suffocating them out of every part of the jungle.
And now the dragon spawning in 23 seconds as well. G2 have taken everything, and it all stems from how the game really exploded off the back of those small 2v2 mistakes happening in the bot lane. The fact that Hansama was able to get so accelerated in the presence that he was able then to bring to the rest of the map alongside Yike has just been devastation for Koi. They had good control over early, they very quickly lost it, and now it's just been G2's game ever since.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one to get back here, Koi. I think it's as good as done. Their comp is just way too far ahead, and Koi don't have the tools. If they had some kind of dive threat onto the MF, maybe they could find a miracle. But what's their dive? It's a Gnar TP flank, a Sejuani ult hitting. Despite the amount of frontline that G2 have, they're kind of grasping at straws there. So G2 are just going to get the siege going. Make sure BrokenBlade and Mikyx are just in front of Hans so he can work with space. Make sure he can walk up. And we'll see what Koi can do on this last defense.
No TP flank for Szygenda. His teleport still on cooldown. Inhibitor tower falls in the bottom lane as Koi look for some last vestige of hope. Some last light at the end of the tunnel. It might just be a game 2 angle for them. As Comp puts the culling down, but Mikyx can tank that for quite a while. Look for the hook there. Once again, the minion meets an early grave.
Maybe the Infinity Edge is what Koi's waiting for here. They don't want to pull the trigger just yet, but G2 definitely do.
There's the Nature's Grasp once again, looking for the inhibitor here. Tidal Wave used. Won't hit the bullet time. It was just wide. Larssen taken out in the midst of it all as Hansama gets another one on the board, and now Comp is up.
Over.
Mikyx continues to land the hooks. Trymbi forced to flash away. Hansama diving the inhibitor tower. And as you say, Caedrel, it's all done, but the Nexus falling, it's all over. But the final death knell here for Koi. 3 members strong, they can try and defend, but G2 are tanking the towers and their minions will keep the backdoor bonus alive. BrokenBlade forces Malrang away, the Nexus towers fall, followed by the Nexus. G2 unwilling to end it yet, they want a little more time in the spotlight, time in the sun.
They're farming KDA.
They're farming KDA. You see Hansama with a smile on his face, and what a smile it should be. A dominant performance from G2 as they take a game 1 of this best of 5.
We already mentioned it in the game. The early game looked very promising for Koi. They find themselves with 3 quick kills, they get themselves a 1.5k gold lead. All things good for Koi. But a couple of blunders. We saw a couple picks happening for G2 with the Maokai ultimate, that first one onto Larssen, the next one happening down towards that mid lane or bot lane river skirmish where we saw the Maokai ultimate come out and G2, or rather Mikyx getting punished for his lack of flash, but then that 2v2 in the bot lane where they sat in lane, they tried to come in from the flank, and then Hansama gets another 2 kills. He leaves lane 4-1. He then has 2 completed items. Like, the man just then gets unleashed on that. He goes from bot to top to mid, and that's really where G2 began this.
And it would be at this point where I say, you know, Koi maybe lacking experience, need to bounce back, but no, they've been here before. They've been here many times before. Ever since those spring finals against Mad, they know how to bounce back. You know, they've been through the trenches at this point and managed to find their title last year. Even against Fnatic, they lost the first game, right? So I don't want to count them out just yet. G2 had a phenomenal game. Koi had control.
Small problem. Every time these 2 teams do meet in a best of 5,
it's a 3-0.
it is a 3-0.
Yeah. However, Koi bounced back last time they lost 3-0 to win 3-0 in the finals.
True.
So maybe we just have to wait for next Sunday to see Koi beat G2.
And that'll be that. See you guys later.
First game's done. So we see Malrang sitting backstage as they just try and get in the right state for the next game. I think the Maokai as well is an interesting discussion. First pick here from G2 wasn't banned by Koi. They can pick what side they want to be on next game. Maybe they try and take the Maokai B1, or maybe they ban it out and look for a couple of power picks R1, R2, and not take that Maokai up. Yeah,
take
just
blue
take blue side, take Maokai.
Force something on blue side, take away Draven, take away Elise, try to get an Ashe first pick or something along those lines. Maybe a Maokai, like you said.
And I also just, I guess I'm happy to see G2 continuing with their quote-unquote innovation, in the sense that last week we saw the Lilia, we're now seeing the MF, and it's not that like they're really breaking the wheel or anything, but I guess they're reading the patch notes. 80 carry changes happened, but a lot of bot laners around the world have just kind of stuck to what they've known, and this is the first time where we're actually seeing a little bit more variation. The Bloodthirst a priority. Like, that already buffed Draven as well. Like, I think that there are more options for AD carries in the current meta, and we're seeing a great example of it and how well it compares with already very powerful meta champions.
I also think melee supports are just OP, and people need to start playing them a little bit more. I think taking away Mikyx's Nautilus is #1. I think when Mikyx doesn't have Nautilus and Leona, they look a little bit different when he's playing range supports, because you can see how hard they can force when they get an engaged jungler. Mikyx on Nautilus, just go forwards, run at them, start a fight. So playing the range support requires a lot more kiting back and a lot more kind of responsibility.
I think definitely it suits G2's style a lot, the range support. Because if Koi were like, we're just going to get the melee supports. If Koi just said we're going to play melee supports, I'd be like, well, Trymbi's incredibly good at range supports, so maybe stick there. We'll see what they decide to do. We're going to hand it over, though, to Ender, who's with Jamada and the Telestrator.
Yeah, it's a party over here with Mr. Telestrator. Going to walk you through some of the early game here, because that was a little bit of a shocking loss after the early levels went so well for Koi. I want you to get in the mind of Yike for me as we try to track Malrang in the early game, because I think for me at least, it looked like Yike had a good read of what Malrang was trying to do.
Yeah, genuinely, right. You can already get the clip rolling, to be honest with you, because we've spoken about how Malrang loves to do these 3-camp clears into bot side, or 3-camp clears rather. And you're seeing this already play out. We take a pause now. Yike's kind of read this. He's done a 3-camp of his own. He's got a ward set up to also get some information on the fact that the camps are gone, and just to ensure that Malrang's not around anymore. But they had a little bit of information in the river. I think it's faded out already.
Because also, like, G2 were potentially trying to look for a dive to go on right here. I know you can't really see, but there's a wave crashing up against that turret, but it's a little bit hard, and Malrang, I believe, is actually hiding like right inside the fog of war over here, looking to actually punish that one.
Yeah, so Yike sniffs out, says, all right, you know what? Too risky to go for this dive. We're not going to play for it. And you can see if we take a pause in about... Well, yeah, here's fine. They've got a ward in the top brush, G2, and they have a good idea that Malrang's on the bottom side.
Also, like, the scouting too. There's a little doggy, whatever those are called.
Astronaut thing, alien, whatever it is. The point is, G2 aren't expecting Malrang here anymore. They've got the vision on the top side to cover.
Also, the timing of the gank is so odd, because I think at like 240, Malrang was already hiding in the fog board. You'd expect him to be on Wolves and actually pathing between towers going up towards his Raptors at this moment. So that's why all of G2's vision is on the top side. They're expecting Malrang to come from that angle, but Malrang waits to get this one coming into mid, and I think Caps' positioning here also a little bit problematic with the control they have over the top side. If he actually played more towards the left side of the lane, he would be less at risk of falling to this gank.
Yeah, I feel like it's just a false sense of security, right? And for Yike as well, he's now thinking, well, this gank's not happening, so I'm going to go farm my camps. Caps is maybe thinking, all right, I've got the information and the coverage from Yike, who's just there. He's got to farm his camps, and Malrang's ganking the mid lane because that's what he does. He's Malrang. He refuses to leave the lanes alone.
Yeah, speaking of, when we look at this next clip here for Malrang, this is after he's based after getting that early kill. You can see he actually farmed one little camp right here,
just
got those Raptors, and now he's going to spend the next minute and a half ganking or farming nothing and simply running around covering for his lanes. He is such a selfless jungle, putting down the early vision, walking straight through mid lane, looking to take a little fight against Yike, because you can see the bot lane has the push going in, trying to do that. So he's going to cover and try brush and make sure Yike can't actually get a gank off.
Yeah, and even if you kind of...
the camp! Look at him go!
Oh my god, he took a camp.
It.
But not only that, right? Even if we pause right before this gank goes off, if you look at the mini-map, Yike full cleared after seeing his mid laner die. And sure, he was trying to cover, but Malrang kind of just knows this. So he's like, well, Yike's probably gone back to base after I've chunked him out. This gank is free. Look at Caps. He's kind of griefing his positioning again with no flash. And Malrang just says, I'll take it.
At this point, Malrang has farmed his red, his blue, I'm trying to count on the screen. It's just not working for me. His red, his blue, Grump, Raptors,
a Scuttle Crab,
and a Scuttle Crab.
Like
he's farmed 5 camps, and he's between every single lane. This man is absolutely out of his mind, but I think that wraps up the early pathing, because Koi had a big advantage, but they weren't able to capitalize on that, and maybe you can help us figure out why.
Yeah.
Poor Rider Sejuani everywhere, just ganking, getting the kills. Huge advantage for Larssen in the mid lane, mispositioning out of Caps. But when we pull up the post-game breakdown in just a second, where we see the gold graph and its evolution throughout the game, Guldborg.
They lost!
From the early
Look at how
game.
steep that is too, by the way.
Exactly, and I think from the early game as well, you have the Lucian Nami. Malrang gets them ahead in the early game. You get that Gale Force power spike. It should be you who's stacking these objectives. How many Drakes are we seeing from Koi's side? There's 0. Now, reason for that is because they started to prioritize some of their heralds well to kind of just further snowball the gold lead. But that's where they were suddenly just put back, where they didn't really have enough movements on the map. They're not looking for enough fights. They set back, and that let G2 come back into it.
Yeah, it kind of felt like to me, for Koi, right, you have this sort of middling to ahead Lucian Nami in terms of items. You need to just send the mid, get priority. You took the first 2 heralds to try and take some towers so you'd have first move on the map, but I felt like it was never the case, and it was always G2 who were sending numbers first. It was always G2 who were sending members forward with ultimates to actually get their own fights going on their own grounds.
And for Caps, who then had a bit of mid-positioning in the early, I think when you look at the bot lane and how some of those plays played out as well, right? It allowed, and I'm not going to say allowed like definitively, because definitely it was good play out of Hans and Mikyx as well. That misfortune was deadly.
Yeah, you know, first misfortune AD carry we see in a major region as well, and I gotta say, Hans Summer really showed why this is a pick that G2 had prepared for today. Here, where Caps gets a bit over-aggressive, it's actually Hans Summer who's the one who's gonna salvage the play after Caps is just suddenly caught in between 3 members, but with Yike around and with Hans Summer, they just out-teamfight their way out of the bad situation.
Yeah, I really have to put a bit of a spotlight on Yike, because I feel like, obviously, it's kind of easy to just press R on Maokai, but I feel like so many of the ultimates set up to either finish off fights or set up Hans Summer with bullet time again and again and again, and it felt like there was just no answer ever for Koi because they would be out of position for it.
Yeah, you can see it as well. It's G2 every time again who's looking for the fight themselves. This one was really cool just because of how many members came in from different fronts and just the barrel setting up the misfortune ultimate as well. It's just a wombo combo, as we say it in the old-fashioned way.
Exactly. We also see why Hans Summer used to love playing Misfortune. I mean, hasn't lost any of his tricks in that regard. 10, 1, and 5. And, you know, extremely impressive, I think, from the side of G2, if you just look at how far ahead Koi was. I don't mean necessarily that they were 10,000 gold ahead, but they definitely had the momentum of the game. Mid lane was theirs. Let's take a look at the draft order as we get into the second game. Now, as they reminded us, the casters, whenever these two have played in a best of 5, it's been a 3-0, GB. Hopefully that's not the case today.
I mean, hopefully not, but I really think that even on blue side as well, with Koi switching over to that, I have a theory that G2 actually won't ban the Ashe. I have a theory that they want to open arm, welcome it, and go for some kill lanes behind it. You all saw the Samira hover. I'm just not insane. We saw it, and it might come out there as well.
I didn't see that. Did that really?
It happened. It happened for sure. It happened for sure. Now, Misfortune came up, but Hans Summer, once again, we talk about G2 so many times. The ingenuity. Last week it was Lilia. This time around, we see the Misfortune. And I don't even think we've seen just the, you know, this is just the tip of the iceberg. So for G2, I think going to red side for them, I think they've prepared a lot for Koi. And I think Koi, they need to step up individually, not so much just from the draft phase.
Yeah, I was going to say, aside from the draft, right, Jamada, you know, Koi has always been a team where we know that they drill their protocols. They know how to play this game from a macro perspective in that sense. This seems a bit out of sorts in the way that they just let the map fall to G2's side so much.
Yeah, I feel like it was more to do with sort of number allocation on the map. I feel like typically a lot of the time, perhaps it was, I didn't get a good look at it, but I feel like it was probably just the lane assignments in the mid game, because I never really saw Comp and Trymbi at a fight first. They were always getting picked off, or it was Malrang who was making a play on the opposite side of the map. So I feel like it just needs to be a little more coordinated in terms of what Koi actually want to play towards in the mid game once the map starts to open up. Because I felt like G2 were really on point with it, and they knew where they wanted to go.
Yeah, I think for Koi, it's just like keep the confidence going. Your early game was so good. Just keep staying aggressive and keep wanting more, because then I really think they have a competitive chance against G2.
Let's hope so, and don't let it get in your head that it's always been a 3-0 or an 0-3 that you've been at the
I don't think they will.
I don't think they will either, but you never know. But we don't want it, because it's our first series in the winter playoffs. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with Game 2 in just a second.
I love how Vamos Koi. The Vamos Koi
it's
people.
like Malmo all over again.
So true.
There's nowhere for Caps to go. Does still have the flash, will hold on to it. Malrang flash follows though. Needs to slow here. One more auto would be enough. Permafrost.
We've got another fight here. Mikyx a bit caught.
Very deep. TP coming out as well from BrokenBlade as they look to join the fight. Nature's Grasp into the bullet time. Dodge that, Koi.
I have aura. I'm coming. I can maybe run mid. I will aura. He's gonna get hit as well, okay?
Nami as well.
Nami's behind.
Sit your Viktor here.
Nami ending.
Sit your Viktor, bot river.